You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. 50 after the hour. And you know, we've been talking about California's Prop 19 a whole bunch. We're less than 3 weeks away from the election. But you know, all the talk about Prop 19 has overshadowed 3 other states that are voting on marijuana this election cycle. Of course, the state of Arizona, as mentioned earlier, with Proposition 203 to legalize medical marijuana. The state of South Dakota has an initiative to legalize medical marijuana. And right here in my own home state of Oregon, we have Measure 74. Measure 74 is the Oregon Regulated Medical Marijuana Supply System, aka dispensaries. That's right, just north of California, we are voting on legalizing nonprofit dispensaries here in our state. And I wanted to address the Oregonian. The Oregonian is the state's largest newspaper, headquartered here in Portland, and they issued their editorial on this, which said, "No on Measure 74, a free-for-all on pot." Oh no, a free-for-all on pot. You know, unlike now, when anybody who wants pot can get it. Okay. But the Oregonian, what is very telling in this article is how they frame the argument. They say, you know, if the main impact of Measure 74 was to improve the access of very sick people to medical marijuana, Oregon voters could support the initiative with enthusiasm. And basically right there, they're ceding the medical marijuana argument. They're basically saying, yeah, we've got medical marijuana. Everybody likes medical marijuana. And we all agree that the system we have now with no dispensaries, something we call the Mother Teresa system, doesn't work. The way it works here in Oregon is that a registered patient can have a caregiver and a grower. And caregiver is usually a spouse or someone that lives with them. And then a grower, somebody to grow their medical marijuana for them. But the way this is worked out is that under the law, the patients can have up to 6 mature plants, 18 seedlings, and 1.5 pounds of medicine, 24 ounces of medicine. And that the plants and the medicine are the property of the patient. It's written out in the law that they are the property of the patient. So someone who is a grower for a medical marijuana patient, they don't own those plants. They don't own that marijuana. They are caretakers of someone else's marijuana. And the way that it's supposed to work is that the patient, you know, gets themselves a grower, the grower supplies the medicine to the patient, and the patient reimburses the grower for supplies and utilities. But what is also very specific about the Oregon law is no reimbursement for labor. So these growers are expected to, out of the kindness of their hearts, put all their time and effort into taking care of the marijuana, chopping down the marijuana, doing the trimming, dealing with mites and all the things that can go wrong in a marijuana garden, and yet not get reimbursed for their labor. Now, the intent of that is understandable. The intent was, we want to have a medical marijuana system, but we don't want to see this turned over to the black market. We don't want to enrich drug dealers, as they're called by the mainstream media and so on. But actually, that's what's happened. That's what's happened under this Mother Teresa model, is that you've created 36,000 people in the state of Oregon who are legal to have 1.5 pounds, who have nowhere to get it from. Most of the people in the state of Oregon who are patients do not have a grower, or they designate themselves as their grower because by law, they have to designate a grower and a grow site, wherever it's going to be, even if they don't grow. So when the state comes out and tells you there's X number of grow sites, that's on paper, folks. The real number of grow sites is actually quite small. And the other unintended consequence of the way our Mother Teresa model works is that it enriches the black market growers. I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to people, patients here in the state of Oregon, who call normal or talk to people that I know and ask, well, I've got this grower lined up and he says that he can get me an ounce a month for $300. Yeah, an ounce a month for $300. When this guy is growing 6 mature plants and harvesting a whole lot more than 24 ounces, somehow only 1 ounce gets back to the patient, and the reimbursement for that's $300. That's some pretty expensive pots and pretty expensive lights and electricity and soil and water if we're truly reimbursing you for your supplies. In fact, I've done the math on this. And I found that you can grow indoors under the Oregon law. You can grow indoors and produce for about 40 to 60 bucks an ounce, depending on, what part of the state you live in, what your electric bills are, and so forth. And that's indoors, folks, not outdoors. Outdoors, it's far cheaper than that. So for these growers in the state to be raking over the coals these patients for black market money is just sickening. And that's why it is so important that we vote yes on Measure 74, that we create a dispensary system and we regulate this. And, the concerns by the Oregonian and those who are opposed to this. And by the way, in the voters pamphlet, we do vote by mail, right? So we've already gotten our voters pamphlet sent out to us. There are 9 arguments in favor of 74 and only 2 opposed. Also, the Citizens Review Board. We have a Citizens Review Board here in the state of Oregon, a panel of 24 independent citizens who review these initiatives and give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. That won 13 to 11. Close vote. But the citizens of Oregon, as represented by that panel, supported it 13 to 11. Now, here are some of the things that they're complaining about. Number one, they complain that there's no limit in Measure 74 as to the number of dispensaries that can exist. And they bring up the old cities in California and Colorado with restrictions this loose have found themselves overwhelmed with more dispensaries than Starbucks coffee shops. Oh, no. Why is it always Starbucks they pick on? Why not McDonald's? I don't know. But anyway, why is that scary? Why is it scary to some people that there might be more dispensaries than Starbucks? I mean, I'm really more scared of there being more McDonald's, considering America's health and obesity epidemic. But really, why is it scary? If it's a regulated shop, if it's a place where only adults can go into, where they're carded and they have to show ID, where they have to be registered medical marijuana patients. And remember, we're not talking California where you can go skate down Venice Beach, go into some dock in a tent for 40 bucks, complain about your headaches or you can't get to sleep and walk out with a card that day and run to the dispensary and buy yourself a pound. That ain't going to happen here. The problems we've seen in California and Colorado and now Michigan are directly attributable to lack of regulation. They said in California that collective cultivation was okay, but they never described how it was going to be supplied, and they never described how it was going to be run as far as the commerce goes. Measure 74 takes care of that. All of these dispensaries must be nonprofit organizations. They must pay 10% of their gross proceeds every quarter to the state. The Measure 74 is completely self-funded, and the legislative analysis says that it could raise anywhere from $400,000 to $3 million a year for a program that's only going to cost $400,000 to $600,000 to implement. Measure 74 has written into it scientific exploration, medical research on cannabis by the state of Oregon. We will actually finally take a look at these 36,000 odd patients who've been using this wonderful medicine for the past, 12 years. And we'll finally start asking them some questions like, hey, did it really work for you? We'll do some real tests and find out about this stuff. The other thing they complain about here is, and this is in the Oregonians' complaints about Measure 74, is that the employees and directors of the dispensaries wouldn't have to be law-abiding Oregon citizens. They could be drug dealers moving in from other states. Well, Measure 74 actually has a proscription in it that says you cannot run a dispensary if you have a violent felony in the past 5 years, or if you have a illegal drug distribution felony after this law is passed, and that provides a 5-year limit on that as well. Which to me sounds a whole lot better than what it is now, where anybody can come into the state, anybody from any state with any record, and start selling to patients. Right now, that's what's happening. I mean, I love these people always want to put the blinders on and pretend that it's not going on, but black market deals for patients are going on right now. Patients are being taken advantage of by these unscrupulous growers, and who knows whether they have felony records? Who knows how they're growing? Who knows whether they're using pesticides? Who knows whether they're keefing the buds before they get them out to the patients? We don't know, because it's unregulated. You can wish all you want to put the genie back in the bottle, but medical marijuana is here to stay. And if it is here to stay, and as the Oregonian admits that we need to have better access to medical marijuana, why not vote yes on 74 and regulate that? Create jobs for Oregonians. Create a state system that will fund itself and provide extra revenue for other state government budgets. It's a win-win-win situation for everybody. Check out Yes474. That's YESFOR 74.com or .org. I forget which. But Measure 74 in Oregon. Look it up. Vote for it. It's time for dispensaries. I'm Radical Russ for Cannabis Carry and everybody here at the Normal Foundation. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it.